You've met this person. They drive a car that's nothing special. They bring lunch to work. They don't talk about money, don't flex on holidays, don't post their wardrobe online. On the surface, they look completely ordinary, maybe even a little boring. And then, one day, completely by accident, you find out they're worth $2 or $3 million, and your brain just stops. Because nothing about them looked wealthy, nothing about them screamed success. No watch, no designer shoes, no Instagram aesthetic that costs $8,000 a month to maintain. Here's the thing, that's exactly the point. Real wealth, the kind that actually lasts, the kind that buys freedom rather than just furniture, almost never looks the way we've been taught to expect it to look. Because the people who are genuinely, quietly, solidly wealthy are almost never the ones performing wealth for an audience. They're the ones who figured out, at some point, that the performance was the trap. And once you know what to look for, they're everywhere. In your neighborhood, in your office, possibly in your family, definitely not in the comment section of a luxury lifestyle influencer.
Today, we are going to walk you through 13 specific, concrete signs that someone is secretly wealthy. Not rich-looking, not high income, and not aggressively successful. Actually, quietly, structurally wealthy. Some of these signs are about what they do. Some are about what they don't do. All of them are grounded in the real financial behaviors that separate the genuinely wealthy from the convincingly broke. And here's the bonus. Every single one of these signs is something you can adopt. This isn't just a list, it's a blueprint. If you're new to this channel, this is exactly what we do every week. Break down the real mechanics of wealth, without the noise and without the lifestyle performance. Hit subscribe right now and turn on notifications. Stick around, this one's worth it. Let's get into it. Number 1. They drive a car that's several years old and completely paid off. Not a junker, not embarrassing, just not new, and crucially, not financed. The secretly wealthy person understands something that car dealerships spend billions of dollars every year trying to make you forget. A car is a tool, not a status symbol. And the moment you drive a new car off the lot, it loses somewhere between 10 and 20% of its value before you've even changed the radio station. While everyone else is paying $600 a month to look successful, the secretly wealthy person is driving something reliable, payment-free, and quietly putting that $600 somewhere that doesn't depreciate. The expensive car in the driveway is often debt with a nice paint job. The modest car, that's often the sign of someone who stopped caring what the driveway looked like and started caring what the portfolio looked like.
Number 2. They never talk about how much things cost, in either direction. They don't brag about what they spent. They also don't aggressively tell you how much they saved. The person who announces the price of every purchase, this watch was $4,000, or this coat was only $40 at the outlet, is someone for whom money is still a social performance tool. They're using price tags as a way to communicate something about themselves. The secretly wealthy person has largely stopped caring what money communicates about them to other people, because they've reached a point where money is a private instrument, something they use, not something they display. When you stop needing money to say something on your behalf, you've crossed a threshold most people never reach. Number 3. They're completely unbothered by economic news. Recession headlines, interest rate hikes, stock market corrections, inflation data. While half the room is mildly panicking and the other half is catastrophizing on social media, the secretly wealthy person reads the article, notes the relevant implications for their portfolio, and gets on with their day. It's not that they're uninformed, it's that they're structured. Their financial life is built on a foundation that doesn't require the economy to cooperate. They have liquidity, they have diversification, they have time. They don't need good news to be okay. Compare that to the person driving the expensive car on a 5-year loan. One bad quarter at work and the whole thing starts to wobble. The quietly wealthy person can absorb turbulence. That's not luck, that's architecture.
Number 4. They never seem to be in a hurry to make money decisions. Someone offers them an investment opportunity at dinner. They don't get excited. They don't commit. They say something like, "That's interesting. I'll look at it." And they actually mean it.
They'll research it properly before deciding, or they'll politely decline without explaining themselves. The secretly wealthy person has been approached enough times by enough people with enough amazing opportunities that they've developed a built-in delay mechanism. They know that real financial decisions deserve time, and that urgency in a pitch is almost always a red flag dressed as excitement. They move slowly on purpose, because they don't need to move fast, and people who don't need to move fast almost never get taken advantage of. Number 5. They have unusually low fixed monthly obligations. Their housing costs are manageable relative to their income. Their car is paid off. They don't carry credit card balances. They don't have a string of monthly subscriptions and membership fees quietly bleeding them. This isn't an accident. The quietly wealthy person has consciously and deliberately kept their financial floor low, because the lower your fixed obligations, the more of your income you control. And the more of your income you control, the more of it you can direct toward assets instead of expenses. Most people's income goes up over their lifetime. Their fixed costs go up even faster. The secretly wealthy person figured out the trick early. Let income grow, keep costs flat, and let the gap between the two build quietly for decades.
Number 6. They read, and not just business books or finance news. This might seem random. It isn't. The secretly wealthy person is almost always a serious reader. History, philosophy, biography, science. Not just how to optimize my morning routine content, actual books that build frameworks for thinking about the world. Why does this show up so consistently? Because genuine wealth, the kind built over decades through patient compounding and sound decision-making, requires thinking in long time frames, understanding human nature, and learning from patterns that repeat across generations. That's not something you get from a podcast episode. It's something you build over years of reading deeply and thinking carefully. The person quoting Warren Buffett at you without having read his shareholder letters is not the person we're talking about. The person who just quietly finishes their book and doesn't mention Buffett at all, that's closer. Number 7, they're extremely selective about who they take financial advice from, which means they're often taking advice from nobody at a social level and from deeply qualified professionals at a private level. They don't ask the guy at work who always has a hot stock tip. They don't act on what their brother-in-law said at Christmas about crypto. They definitely don't make portfolio decisions based on what's trending on social media. They have a fee-only financial advisor or a trusted accountant or both. And they treat those relationships like they treat medical relationships, private, professional, and based on qualifications, not volume. If you're still here and finding this useful, here's a quick pause. Subscribe to this channel and hit the bell. Every week, we break down wealth behaviors, financial decisions, and the thinking that separates the quietly wealthy from the loudly broke. It's free, it's clear, and it compounds. Subscribe now.
Number 8. They don't tie their identity to their job title. Ask a quietly wealthy person what they do, and they'll usually tell you in one sentence, maybe even a vague one. Ask them what they're interested in, and the conversation suddenly becomes interesting. This is more financially significant than it sounds. The person who is deeply emotionally invested in their job title tends to spend money defending that identity. They wear the right brands, drive the right car, live in the right postcode, because all of those things are extensions of who they are at work. When identity and income are fused, spending follows automatically. The quietly wealthy person has usually decoupled the two. Their job is what they do, not who they are. That decoupling doesn't just feel healthier, it is financially healthier. It removes an enormous amount of pressure to spend on things that signal professional status. Number 9, they are genuinely comfortable saying no to a purchase, to a social obligation that requires spending money they'd rather keep, to a friend's expensive birthday plans, to an upgrade they don't actually need. This sounds simple. It is not simple. Most people find it genuinely difficult to say no to social spending, because social spending is wrapped up in belonging, in generosity, in being the kind of person who shows up. The pressure is real. It's constant.
and it's expensive. The secretly wealthy person has developed a kind of social immunity to this pressure. They're still generous, sometimes extraordinarily so, but on their own terms, in their own time, in ways they choose deliberately rather than reactively. The ability to say no without guilt is one of the most underrated financial superpowers that exists. And like most superpowers, it mostly looks boring from the outside.
Number 10. They own something. A property, an investment portfolio, a business, even a small one. Intellectual property that generates income while they sleep. The secretly wealthy person has at least one asset that is doing financial work independently of their labor. They are not entirely dependent on showing up somewhere every day in exchange for money. There is something, somewhere, that earns whether or not they're in the room. This is the mechanical definition of wealth, not how much you earn, but how much your assets earn. The person still trading all of their time for all of their income, regardless of how much that income is not yet wealthy. The person who has even a small, growing source of passive returns has crossed the threshold. Number 11. They seem slightly outside the cultural conversation. They haven't seen the show everyone is watching. They're not sure what the trending thing is. They vaguely know about the viral moment, but couldn't give you the details. This is not an affectation, it's a side effect. When you're genuinely focused on your work, your investments, your relationships, your learning, you simply don't have the bandwidth to be fully plugged into the content machine. And the content machine, if you pay close attention, is largely a consumption-driving engine. Most of what it's selling is either lifestyle comparison or something you can buy. Opting out of it, even partially, removes a significant amount of financial pressure. The secretly wealthy person is often not even aware they've opted out. They just got interested in other things, and the algorithm quietly stopped recognizing them as a reliable customer.
Number 12. They're unusually calm about the future. Not naive, not dismissive, just calm. They have a plan, probably multiple scenarios of it, and the plan accounts for things going wrong. They've thought about health, about market downturns, about career disruption. They've modeled it, prepared for it, and accepted that some of it will happen. And so when life's uncertainty comes up in conversation, they don't perform anxiety about it the way most people do. This calm isn't personality, it's preparation, and it costs real money to achieve. Years of consistent saving, investing, and financial structuring that eventually produces a level of optionality where the future feels like a set of possibilities rather than a set of threats. You can't fake this calm. The quietly wealthy person didn't. They built it, slowly, one unglamorous financial decision at a time. Number 13. They're playing a game most people don't realize is being played. And the final sign is this. Everything about the secretly wealthy person makes more sense once you understand that they are optimizing for a completely different thing than most people around them. Most people are optimizing for how their life looks right now. The car, the house, the holiday, the wardrobe, the signal. The secretly wealthy person is optimizing for optionality, for the ability to make choices freely, about work, about time, about risk, without being constrained by financial obligation. Every decision they make, including the boring-looking ones, is in service of that goal. That's not a personality type, it's a strategy. And the beautiful thing about strategies is that they can be adopted, learned, applied. Every single sign on this list is a behavior, not a background, not a starting point, a choice, one that you can make, starting with the next financial decision you face.
Here's what this list is really saying. Wealth, real, lasting, quietly powerful wealth, is not visible. It is not loud. It does not post. It does not perform. It does not need your validation because it is not built for an audience. It is built in private, through decisions that look unremarkable from the outside and are absolutely transformative from the inside. The person you wrote off as unimpressive because their car was a few years old, they might be the most financially dangerous person in the room. Not dangerous in a threatening way. Dangerous in the sense that they are operating at a completely different level of financial clarity, and it doesn't show. That's where you want to be. not impressive from the outside, unshakable from the inside. Start with one sign. Pick the one on this list that represents the biggest gap between where you are and where you want to be. Work on that one. Then come back for the next. If this video gave you a useful frame for thinking about wealth differently, here's what to do. Like the video, share it with someone who needs to see it, and subscribe to this channel with the notification bell on. Every week we put out content like this, the real mechanics of wealth, the behavioral patterns that actually build financial freedom, and the honest analysis that most finance content doesn't bother with. The subscribe button is free, but the compounding value of being here every week is not. We'll see you in the next one.